And now, WTOE Radio Live, brought to you by ThroughOurEyes.org.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
Hey, Jerry, how you doing today?
Doing great. I'm looking on the positive. It's the right side. How are you doing, Janie?
I'm fabulous. I like laughter. I'm on the light side.
Hey, you know what that means?
I think that means we're always looking on the bright side of life.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
I'm so excited. The show's about to begin.
So am I, with my straw hat and cane.
I got my tap shoes on. We're ready to go.
Come on, everybody. It's time for the show.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Welcome to On the Bright Side with Janie and Jerry. I'm Jerry. And I'm Jerry. Happy New Year 2013. My guest host tonight is a special guy, and I'm going to introduce him to you later. But I just want to give a shout out to Janie. Janie, the normal, as opposed to me, the abnormal guest host. Not guest. Why can't we call him guest? It's co-host. Well, she's at the Louisville Seton Hall game, rooting for Seton Hall. Let's go Pirates! Let's go Pirates! Well, how has your new year gone so far? Today's the 9th. We've had 9 days so far. Today, I couldn't believe it, here in North Carolina, I actually went outside, was walking around, got in a car in my shirt sleeves, 60-something degrees. It was beautiful today. Of course, we did have a little cooler weather before that. And I had a wonderful time spending Christmas Eve with my family, Christmas Day with Madeline's family up in New Jersey, for you folks out there in New Jersey. And I heard it's supposed to be in the 60s this weekend. Wow. Don't you all want snow up there in New Jersey? Well, speaking of our guest co-host tonight, we have, at great expense, brought Vincent Chaney for your listening pleasure. As our guest host, we're going to talk about Dusty's Law. We're going to talk about some technology. We're going to listen to a Christmas song. Yes, that's right. You heard me. A Christmas song. Christmas is a Feeling in Your Heart by Andy Williams. And we're going to have a good time tonight. So, if you want to call in, it's 1-888-572-0141. And I encourage you to call with your comments, talk about my tongue tie or my tie tongue or whatever it is. And we're going to have a good time tonight. So, what we're going to do, we're going to go away for a couple of minutes for a commercial. And then we're going to come back with Dusty's Law and Vinny Chaney. Okay? So please stay tuned. Don't go away.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Global warming is here. The effects may seem slight now,
but in a few decades, they could be massive. What can we do? We can join together, because when many unite as one,
we can achieve anything.
Find out how we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
Imagine climbing the tallest mountain in the world without ever seeing the path in front of you. Imagine winning a television game show without ever seeing television. Blind people reach their dreams every day. Hello, I'm Mark Maurer, President of the National Federation of the Blind. With the proper training and opportunity, blind people become lawyers, professors, and chefs. We develop new technologies and support our communities. We own businesses and homes. We are mothers, fathers, and grandparents. We raise our children and worry about the bills. For more information on blindness, visit our website at www.nfb.org or contact me, Mark Maurer, National Federation of the Blind, 1800 Johnson Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21230, or call 410-659-9314. We are the voice of the nation's blind.
The audience at the Apollo is twice as likely.
The people at my family reunion are twice as likely.
My classmates at Morehouse College are twice as likely.
Many listeners to this radio station are twice as likely.
It's called the odds.
And the odds are African Americans are nearly twice as likely to suffer a stroke as white Americans.
There are steps you can take to help beat the odds. Start by calling 1-888-4-STROKE or go to strokeassociation.org. Join the power to end stroke. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
All words, ideas, and content.
Welcome back to On the Bright Side with Janie and Jerry. Janie is not with us tonight, and as I said, at great expense, we have brought Vincent Chaney, not on Skype, on a landline, so it might sound a little different than probably a little better. But we brought Vinny here to talk about Dusty's Law and technology. He is a all-around guy, knows a whole lot about everything. And welcome, Vinny. How are you tonight?
Good evening, Jerry. Very well, sir. Doing good.
Well, it's so glad to have you here tonight. And before we go on, I just want to give the phone number out again. It's 1-888-572-0141. That's 1-888-572-0141. And so how are you there, Vinny? How's Old Bridge doing?
Old Bridge is definitely feeling a little bit spring-like, at least today, though as soon as the sun goes down in this area, it becomes quite chilly. A bit of breeze kicks back up, and it feels, a little bit more chilly, but a little less chilly each night. So we can tell we're getting, as you were describing, a little bit closer to those upper 50s and possibly 60 for the weekend.
Yeah, it might hit 70 here. And I noticed that, like, when your temperature is 30, ours will be like 27, 25. But then you'll rise up to 45, and we'll go up to 50. So, but one of the things that that's very important, and important in your life and in many blind guide dog users, is your guide dog, and is the treatment, the care, and how the public perceives and how the public treats the guide dog, and you, of course, the user. And what we want to talk about tonight is Dusty's Law. So if you could, in a couple of minutes, just give us a little history of why this came about, and just like the early history first, and then we'll talk about the law.
Sure. Okay. What we had done, I guess, in the kickoff of the idea of Dusty's Law, we called it Attack of a Guide Dog. We came together as a group. That little fellow that we all seem to know, Mr. Ruffalo, had sat down next to me, as everybody warns, at one luncheon at a state convention back, I believe it was 2008. Might have been even as early as 2007. But he goes, what would I think of organizing a group of guide dog users? And I said, that sounds like it's something there's a real need for in New Jersey. There's a group nationally, and of course he knew of the NAGDU group. He says, what would or should we do in Jersey? And we started it. We kicked it off in 2008. And then we found people that were interested. And there was a group of us that were coming together that said, let's organize what do we need to prioritize as a group. What could we, work on, make better, or tackle? And the top one, we had two, attack of a guide dog and the access to public establishments. That is a later step, the year after, when we did the attack of a guide dog. The guide dog one we put together, we actually drafted a resolution and then proposed it, and it was accepted in 2009 at the state convention by the resolution committee. It became our working papers. The access issue was for 2010. The resolution was used once everything started rolling. Unfortunately, in 2010, July, I believe it was 23rd, the gentleman, Roger Woodhour, had been walking his puppy, 9-month-old, Dusty, in a walk that he had done many times for many years around his home. He was raising his 28th, no, he's on 28 now, 26th guide dog. And Dusty was, I shouldn't use the vernacular in the past. Dusty is still alive. He is still with us, fortunately. He is not a guide dog because the emotional trauma part just made him too skittish of other dogs. But he had gone through a major trauma, and so did Mr. Woodhour, where this dog came and attacked Dusty, knocking him down to the ground, and then the dog needed 4 hours of surgery, stitches, 96 of them, had, just real physical, traumas he did recover from, but then the emotional, just made it where he couldn't progress any further in the guide dog design or training. What did then come about from that, because of the Record in North Jersey, the newspaper up there, did pick up a story. It was then seen by Assemblyman Robert Schroeder and his staff up in the North Jersey District 39. They went and started to talk and work with Mr. Woodhour to try to see what they could do and draw up some bills and drafting of a need. Then once we kind of crossed and came together, we invited Mr. Schroeder, Assemblyman Schroeder, onto our New Jersey Association of Guide Dog Users monthly call. When he was there, I told him about our resolution. He then took what was a bill, and it was kind of hesitant as to where it was going. It wasn't moving much, but the wording was very weak. They took our resolution and expanded upon it to make it a much more detailed. It had the legal leads that when the lawyers got a hold of our resolution and combined it with what Mr. Woodhour had said and Assemblyman Schroeder, the bill that's out there in the website of www.nj.state.nj.us, you could search by bill, and the bill numbers are S1907 for Senate and A2728 for Assembly. You could see the wording. And then as it was progressing, we kept reaching out. The Guide Dog Association of New Jersey and all of the fellow members within the NFB of New Jersey were calling, asking our fellow friends and family and acquaintances to call our assembly persons and senators, and then it was getting recognition. But then we came out with a press release just this November to say how the New Jersey Association of Guide Dog Users were supporting and sponsoring our support of Dusty's Law. That was the end of November. Come December 6th, between that and the Chief of Staff for Assemblyman Schroeder said that it would or could move very quickly. What happened was within days, and this is how she described it on that conference call, virtually 8 or 9 months prior, that it was going to just run. It could be days. And then all of a sudden we were getting some notifications I was sending out, to the Guide Dog User Group and the NFB New Jersey again, looking for testimony to be written. I got a number of them in email forms, and others that were not able to email had faxed it to me, and I carried them because I went to the Law and Public Safety Committee of the Senate on December 6th, and I actually spoke and gave my testimony and presented all of the documents and testimonies that people had given to me. And then also Jim Kutch from the Seeing Eye spoke, and then Mr. Woodhour himself also gave some testimony in front of the committee. There was then questions. They were asking about our testimonies, and we gave some answers back. And then it went to a voice vote. I was like, I'm praying, let this go through. And as it moved,
tell me, in essence, what does the law, what when it gets enacted, what will the law do or say? Now, I know you're talking about you're not talking about like accessing public accommodations and things like that, because that's already in the law. What specifically does this law address when it gets passed?
Interesting you do that, Jerry, because the access is a civil law that's there today and not a criminal law. So we could be denied, but that's our 2010 resolution. And the Guide Dog User Group knows, or if they're not, that is on the next project list to work with. What the Dusty's law is, if a guide dog is attacked today, there is no recourse that we can do. We can call the police, but they will or cannot respond because there is no criminal law on the books. They then forward it to their local animal control officer. Then they come when they're available. And if, unfortunately, something happens in the evening or on the weekend, you're waiting for either the next day or come Monday morning. And then, while walking with my first guide dog, I'm working and traveling with my third, but my first was attacked. And when I called the police, they said, no, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. Then about 2.5 hours later, the person who was on duty came out to my house, took information down. But after what had happened to me, the local neighbors all around had issues with this dog that attacked my first dog, Schaefer. And they said, here, give the police our names, our numbers, and our addresses. We will tell them what happened. They saw it because I started hollering. I was hollering help, and I was hollering at the dog, go home. And then,
but see, you were fortunate in that area. But I'm sure there's other guide dog users in the state and also in the nation that wouldn't have that community help. And with the implementation of this law, it would make it a criminal act to kill, injure, or now it also used the word to interfere. I didn't quite catch that. Interfering with
there's some problems in the working with a dog that if they keep getting intimidated, or like if dogs run in between the legs or nip at the legs or ears of a dog on a regular or just on a basis, that can start to traumatize a dog, so they're not going to work well. So the degree of each offense is stated in the bill as to how, it's like one level is like 18 months of imprisonment. We're not always looking to try to highlight that type of part of the bill. I'm sure there could be some, ways, the other community, things could be done, but we don't get any, help from the police. And mine was during the day, so I was fortunate, people were around. But in the evening, or when I was working in New York City, I was leaving, by 6 o'clock in the morning. The only things that were out there were I would hear some mourning doves and other birds, but not really other people.
Yeah, that is too early to be out. I got to admit that. Ever since I retired, I made sure I don't get up and get out that early. Yeah. But I want to ask you a question: what is the status right now of the bill in the Assembly and in the Senate?
Right. The bill right now was passed first by the committee that I spoke in front of, which was great. It was unanimous. And then it moved up 2 weeks later to the whole Senate in New Jersey. They passed it, and I'm not able to see the screen, but my wife Michelle came on and saw the numbers pop up on the screen, that with enlarging the screen, she could see that it was 38-0 with 2 senators not voting, whether they were not present or what, but it was unanimous by the full Senate. Then, just today, it's interesting of the question, the document was forwarded from the Senate to the Assembly Law and Public Safety Committee. Each house has their own version of a Law and Public Safety Committee. The bill has been there. It was initially introduced to the Assembly in March. It went to the Senate in May. But the Senate, and I basically had the hunch they would move quickest, but it's like stopped right now in the Assembly. And we're not sure, why it's not moving. We're hoping now that the next little progress step of receiving it from the Senate officially in writing will allow it to go to the Law and Public Safety this coming Monday, January 14th. So we're hoping that it'll be there, because if not, the next 2 dates are February 7th and March 7th. So, I mean, it's starting. It gets pushed back and back in the year, and we would hope it wouldn't need to be even carried to the next. This is the I think 215th legislature for the year 2012-13, and it can be reintroduced, but we hope it doesn't have to keep being put off for another year.
Yeah, you'd like it so that it's now and taken care of. Let me ask you another question. Could you tell me if the bill is also in other states?
A number of states have bills similar or sometimes as strong. Florida, as example, has an attack of a guide dog, and then California, to my knowledge, does. Other states have lesser degrees, but fortunately for our neighbor, Pennsylvania, they just passed a bill of this attack of a guide dog, but it's not as like having the power or the strength or the detail of degrees that we have in our bill for New Jersey. And again, each one of those is available on that njleg.state.nj.us. And right now, are you still with us, Jerry? Okay. I'll keep going with this. Because
can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, now I do, Jerry.
Okay. Yeah, I must have pressed the mute button. But what I was thinking when you're talking about how it's in other states and whatever, I mean, it is just so important that for you and for other guide dog users that this bill get implemented. Now, do you think you need to get the troops out to make calls yet, or you think it's just wait and see in the next couple of weeks, or what's your feeling on it?
It's a little bit of both. What it is we're trying not, again, we did a lot of that through the year, and we hope that people, had responded. There seemed to have been a lot of phone calls and letter writing. What we are looking at right now is not to blast the chair of the Law and Public Safety Committee with a lot of letters at this time. A number of people within our Guide Dog Association have written to the chair. We could also attempt to work with the vice chair, because if I understand the logistics of the districting, the vice chair of the Law and Public Safety Committee is in the same physical location in the state as the chair of the Senate Law and Public Safety Committee. So there could be some hope that in, I believe it to be District 5, that's in the southern part of New Jersey, that may help if we were to go that route. But I'm writing directly to the assemblymen. We've got some staging ready that if it does get on the list, they call it the legislative list, that if the A2728 does show up, then we then need to, after the committee hears it, we have to go to the spokesperson of the House, to, in this case the Assembly, to schedule it to be heard on the floor. So it's a progress, and then once the two houses are there, but like what's the roadblock right now is this Assembly to get it again to be heard on the Law and Public Safety Committee.
So it looks like it's on its way. It's just that you and I have a different time frame and understanding of time and movement as unfortunately our government. It sort of does roll a little bit slowly, and but I don't know if it would be, if it's worse to have it rush real fast and do things that maybe we wouldn't want. But I'm glad that it's coming. Just rehearse with me again. When was the first inkling of doing a law like this? Like about a couple years ago, you said? Yeah.
Some of the people that have worked on it, one of our members in New Jersey here, of the guide dog users, Ginger, had started to see what she could do about 10 years ago. When I came in as the group leader for the Guide Dog Association, we ran with it 4 years ago, and then we just kept progressing, trying to see, how we could keep the line of communications going with the legislature. We then were fortunate to, make connections with Assemblyman Schroeder, and then we allowed him or gave him our copy, and then bring that into the detail. So, it's like it's been a history going up, and then as we've been uniting, coming together as groups to just one united power or advocacy type group, it has, taken off, especially this past year. I'm going to say this year, 2013, no, it was 2012, that things really started to unite and come together, and fortunately was recognized at least that there's a real need for this. And the one senator who was the vice chair on the Senate side said that in her law practice, she had worked with a number of persons with disabilities, and she really understood the need for this bill to become law, and she had the total understanding, compassion to want to see this to come through.
Yeah, because it's we look at it and we say, how come this is something that's done 1, 2, 3? I mean, all in order and nicely done, and so that everything is all I's, as I used to say, all the I's crossed and T's dotted, making sure everything is right. But this is something that is important, and I'm glad to see that there's progress, and hopefully in a few months we can make, or even in a month we can make that announcement that Dusty's law is law. But right now, Vinny, we need to go to our hard break, which is a 4-minute break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk a little bit about holiday, what we did, and play a little song, a little medley. One song. Is one song a medley? No. And but we're going to go away for 4 minutes. So don't go away. Please stay tuned.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life.
Alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old. Suspect, Caucasian male, 30 to 35, 6 feet, 180 pounds, wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued,
White van, out-of-state license, X-ray 687 Charlie.
You can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberAlerts.org. When an Amber Alert is issued in the areas you've chosen, you'll receive a free text message. If you spot the vehicle, the suspect, or the child described in the alert, call 911. Sign up today at wirelessamberAlerts.org. Think of it. Something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units, Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody. Repeat, Amber Alert canceled.
WirelessAmberAlerts.org. A child is calling for help. This message brought to you by the Wireless Foundation, the U.S. Department of Justice, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Ad Council.
Hi, this is Cheryl Echeverria of Echeverria Travel, your one-on-one travel agent, making your travel dreams come true, home of the independent traveler. Whether you're sighted, blind, or disabled, whether you use a cane, guide dog, or sighted guide, Echeverria Travel will get you there safely. We are now on the WTOE radio every first Wednesday of the month at 8 o'clock p.m. Come and learn more about traveling independently.
Like a Norwegian.
Nothing inspires imagination like reading. And it's never too early to start reading to your children. When you open a book, you can explore new worlds like the ones in the Chronicles of Narnia.
Everything you see is Narnia.
Impossible.
You can make new friends, discover amazing adventures, and most of all, have fun.
Are you prepared for what awaits you?
To find out more about the wonders of reading, you can visit the Library of Congress website at www.loc.gov. There, you can learn more about books, play fun games, discover cool facts, and so much more. You can log on to www.loc.gov and let your journey begin. This message has been brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Judy. And my name is Johnny. We're 10 years old and we're blind. Our dreams are to become scientists.
My name is Catherine. I'm 24 years old and I'm blind. I'm currently in law school, and one day I dream of becoming an attorney.
My name is Bill. I'm 74 years old and I've just become blind. My dream is to remain independent in my own home and not have to go to a nursing home just because I'm blind.
The National Federation of the Blind of New York has been helping blind people achieve their dreams since 1956. Help keep their dream machine running and visit blindnewyorkers.org to make a donation. You can also call them at 718-567-7821. Blind people are your neighbors and colleagues, so learn more about blindness and make your contribution today. Go to blindnewyorkers.org or call 718-567-7821. The National Federation of the Blind of New York. Today's dreams can become tomorrow's realities.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the bright side of life. Memory lane, memory lane, I walk memory lane.
Welcome back to On the Bright Side with Janie and Jerry. As we said before, Janie is not with us tonight, and our special guest host is Vincent Chaney. And we're here in our Memory Lane segment. We just came back from the holidays, and we had a good time up in Jersey. And Vinny, how did your holidays go?
It was very good. A little quiet, basically. Just a calm Christmas day and stuff like that. But it was just a very nice one. And Michelle, my wife, have very much missed the snow that New Jersey did not get this year, but I was glad not to have to shovel.
Well, that's true. But you can always take a trip to the Colorados, to the Rockies. You can go up to Vermont. You could have some snow imported into your house and keep it in your freezer for her. But one of the things I found this song by Andy Williams called "Christmas is a Feeling in Your Heart," and it's funny. It's probably been around for the last 30 years or more, and I'd never heard it before, and I thought this is a really nice song. And I don't know if you're aware, but we lost Andy Williams last year, and so it's a memory lane song, if you will. So Lenny, if whenever you're ready, if you can play the clip, it's a beautiful song about Christmas, and just listen to it.
There are toys for girls and boys, silver bells make merry noise, yet you should remember from the start, Christmas is a feeling in your heart. Holly wreaths and mistletoe, carols while the candles glow, these are not the most important part. Christmas is a feeling in your heart. Christmas Day will soon be gone, yet the joy will linger on if you'll only learn to do your part. Let Christmas be a feeling in your heart. Faith and hope, goodwill to men, love and peace and faith again. Let the prayers that Christmas brings brush your heart like angels' wings. Christmas Day will soon be gone, yet the joy will linger on if you'll only learn to do your part. Let Christmas be a feeling in your heart.
The Christmas feeling will linger on if only you do your part. It'll stay in your heart. You know, it's funny, like, you get Christmas music. We saw Christmas advertisements before even Halloween. A little bit of Halloween and you know, Santa Claus in a Halloween outfit. I couldn't believe it. But we saw, and they played Christmas music right around Thanksgiving and before, and all during the month of December. And as soon as Christmas Day is over, boom, it's gone. And that's the way some people treat Christmas, but not here on the bright side. You know, we treat Christmas. Christmas is a feeling all year round. And one of the things that we like to do here on the bright side is talk about technology. And with me again, at great expense to On the Bright Side, we have Vinny Chaney, who is a technological whiz. Would you say that, Vin, or not?
Thank you for the compliment, Jerry. I guess I do come from like 30 years of programming, with my career, to getting into all this new state of the art of today. And I guess I'm talking the ancient history of some of the things from 30 years ago, but today's touch-type tablets and all of the other things today of technology, it's just amazing how quickly things are changing.
You know, it's funny, Vin. I remember, now, I'll be 63 this year, so I graduated high school in 1968, and I remember, getting a report card in 1966, which was printed on it was not the regular report card that you fold and each teacher signed and all. It was just a piece of paper with grades on it, and the ink was horrible. It wasn't that bright, but it was from the computer, and the computer had its own very large room, had this big old air conditioner with it, and of course it was vacuum tubes and all other gizmos and gadgets and whatever, and all it did was just give us the grades, and it was there was no screen. It was the.
If you want, you just cut out, Jerry, that, I go back in some of that history where there were card readers.
Am I here now?
Yeah, you've just come back.
Okay. I'm putting that. All right. So what I was saying is that we used to use, or they used to use the key punch cards. And it was funny because my brother-in-law worked for RCA, and he would bring the little shards of what was cut, and we would use it as confetti. So now, Vinny, I want you to think about that, and then compare and contrast the computer of today. That computer was in a room by itself, right? And now you have the computer that's the size of what? Your thumb, maybe?
Yeah, this is like when we grow up with Dick Tracy thinking of the wristwatch for communications and that type of technology, but it's here today.
Now, is it true that there are some wristwatches that have video? I thought I saw
so. that. I do believe so. And I do understand that there are calculators and some, if it's not there right now, I'm sure it's just on the horizon of a computer in the wristwatch.
There's some phones that use have a wristwatch that's connected via Bluetooth. It'll do a lot of things, but I don't think it does video yet.
Oh, eventually it will be.
Right.
They have those little video things that go in your hat that you could eavesdrop on people, and but anyway, let me ask you a question, Vinny. The newest, I don't want to say the newest rage or whatever, but it's the Apple and VoiceOver. Now, I don't know if those of you out there who are not familiar with what a screen reader is, but a blind person can access a computer either with a very large screen if they have some vision, or they could use what we call a screen reader. Now, let me give you a demonstration of what the screen reader will sound like. Now, this happens to be VoiceOver. Of course, I have to turn it on, right, Vin?
Yeah, that works.
First, I have to turn it on, right, Vin?
Yes, it is, Jerry.
And it's not turning on. Lo and behold, do you ever have that trouble where you try to turn it on and it just doesn't go on?
Yes, right at the state convention. While you get yours going, I was trying to get mine to talk at the New Jersey State Convention, and my phone was on, and somebody that could see my screen kept telling me it was there and ready, but it wasn't talking. So hopefully you can get it going now.
Yeah, it doesn't want to talk. I'm mad at it now.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of what comes up when Jerry does turn on his.
You ready? Aha, it was locked. Okay, let's see if it works now. You love technology, Vin?
Yes, sir.
And maybe it died. I don't know.
Angry Birds.
Nope. You can hear that?
Yes.
Ring Pro.
And these are all the applications. So a blind person could listen to this and access the computer. But Apple is doing it. All right, let's do
3 of 5 bars. 3. Bible. Is.
Let's
Page 4 of 6. Pandora.
Let's go to Pandora.
Pandora. The Caro button.
And now Pandora is a program. It's free, where you can pay $4 a month and get no commercials. And if you go online and get a gift card, you can pay $36 and it won't be $4 a month. It'll be $3 a month. and you could pick various genres and make your own station.
The Skyliners.
So
the Caro button.
These are
Plus
the
button.
These are the ones I have.
Create a new shuffle. Selected. Add variety options button.
That's the harp tones. You didn't hear it.
60s folk radio.
60s
button.
folk radio. You can hear it, right, Vinny?
Yes.
Okay.
60s oldies radio. Alan Sherman radio. Alley-oop radio. The Ames Brothers radio. Capital B. The Belmonts Right Big Band radio. Bill Black's Combo radio. Capital C. Heading.
Now, Bill Black's Combo radio is a radio station filled with instrumentals. You know, and I like that. And then what you could do is, let's just play that.
Capital C. Heading. Bill Black's Combo radio.
By tapping on it.
The Caro button.
And then it'll start playing.
Thumb up button. Thumb up. Pause button.
Well, I'm just going to pause that.
Play button.
Now, if I hit it again, it would play. But on the bottom left is thumbs down.
Play button. Thumb up. Option up button. Thumb down button.
And if I hit thumb down, it'll ignore this track and this artist. If I keep on doing it a couple times, because what the Pandora does is it gives you a choice of building your own. Then there's the options.
Option up button.
And if you go to options, you could share this with Facebook or Twitter, or you can search on iTunes for this song. And then there's thumbs up.
Thumb up button.
Which tells you like it, and you like the kind of music that it's with, that it has, acoustics, non-acoustics, piano, drums. And then there's play, pause.
Thumb up button. Play button. Skip button.
And skip. So that's what Pandora's. Now, when I'm doing this now, Vinny, tell me a little bit about what you like on your iPhone.
I like music. I like the news, especially when we do some traveling. You may want to get a local station, like when we were just recently out in the Los Angeles area, and I picked up their version of CBS News. I think it was like KCBS or whatever, and I was able to get the local forecast, especially prior to flying, news that was going on, just to see what was going on in California. But then I could pick up from, and it's radio.com. There's also an app that you would get that I would listen to CBS, in New York. When we were in South Jersey just before Christmas, I was picking up the Philadelphia CBS station, and you can pick it by location. So I'm getting news. I'm getting like informational or talk. And then I've also picked up a lot of how Janie's at the Pirates game. I follow, especially if I'm away, the Rutgers, Big East opponents to the Seton Hall Pirates. And then, like even this evening, they're playing against St. John's. I could follow that if I wasn't on our shared call tonight. And then I go into a lot of things. I'll even track my diabetes records with my meter, or my iPhone rather. I'll track, let's see, a local radio station, the one that actually visited us and is planning to do so this year as well, the local WCTC AM station that was at our 2011 state convention. And then I'm trying to think where else. I look at the stock market. That's one of the apps that comes as a default on the iPhone, probably the iPads and things like that. And you can plug in just like radio stations, some stocks that you may be following. I look at IBM. It's the technology stocks. I had worked with the banks, so I watched the banks and the stuff like that, and just to see where the financial markets going.
Play button.
And then also one thing that we always look at is the apps app to let you know when you've added things on your phone or iPad, when things get updated, you get them for free once you've already, some you buy, some you can get for free. But whenever there's been an update to it, you'll see, like the word apps, and with the voiceover, you'll hear a number. And what I understand, there's a little symbol next to the number when it's visible, when someone can see it, and that represents that there's been an update that you can tap on and then click on the update button by double tapping. And there's some neat little keys. Jerry, do you think we should just give some of the navigation points? Because that was some questions.
What I wanted to do is, we're talking about radio stations and tune-in radio.
Yeah.
I have it here.
Speaker high button.
And
page 2 of 3. Emily options. Share on Facebook.
I got an Italian station on.
That's
Italy
too.
Skip 10-0. Emilia Romagna.
And then
3 of 5 bars. Signals back button.
What I wanted to do.
Car mode button. News, favorites, podcasts, by language, by location, talk, news.
You can go news,
sports, music, recommended,
and then they give you a recommended,
trending.
They give you trending, and I just found this out. Trending is what other people are listening to, and so let's click on that. See what other people are listening to.
Trending, back button, trending now, playing ESPN Radio, Los Angeles Lakers at San Antonio Spurs.
If you want to listen to the Los Angeles Lakers and the San Antonio Spurs, you can listen to them.
Hot 97. Rihanna FT is Rocky. Cockiness Remix.
Hot 97. I have no idea what that is.
ESPN New York.
The ESPN New York.
Capital London.
The Capital London. I mean, that's amazing. But you know what I found on this, Vinny? I found a Christmas fun station. And it was just novelty songs. Some of them I had to not listen to because they were raunchy. But like funny Christmas novelty songs.
Okay, cool.
And I just got a kick out of them. But one of the things that you have to learn is the gestures. Doesn't that sound like a singing group? Yeah. Now, from the 50s, we had never mind. But Lenny, can you see the iPhone? Okay, now. All right, but you can see my finger here. All right, so the gesture is the...
News Talk 1320, Iowa Saint. Cyclones at Kansas Jayhawks.
The, to the left or to the right, then we could do...
Hot 108 jams.
Up and down.
Lamar, swimming pools, drink.
And then there's the rotor, which has taken me a long time to figure out. Which gives you headings, words, characters. So now you could spell
181 FM 181 period capital F Foxtrot.
And then it gives you the phonetic, and then
words, headings.
You can do headings.
Heading of BBC Radio 4 Pondens, Comai Radio.
So there's so many things, and then you could do the triple
BBC Radio 4 selection of BBC World Service program speech off.
The triple click shuts the speech. And that one's supposed to put it back on.
Speech on.
You know the funniest thing, when I went, and also there's the button on the bottom, the home key. This home key, if you first of all you have to set it in your settings under accessibility. But if you do this,
voiceover off.
It shuts it off.
Voiceover on.
And that God bless their hearts. An expression I learned. Bless their heart down here. The Apple Store, the man that helped me. As knowledgeable as he was last April, he didn't know the triple click.
Right.
I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, excuse me on that one, Jerry. Just so everybody knows, since iOS, which is the operating system 3, that has been a default, that out of the box, Apple has made the iPhone with that triple click that it will turn on the voiceover.
Isn't that amazing? You know, and we didn't have to, you know what I mean. But I find that in my iPhone I have a Looktel money recognizer. If I had some money, I could recognize it. I bought the Looktel recognizer. I haven't used it that much yet. I have to learn how to use it, where you can scan a barcode, and you could teach it to recognize something, and then. Next time you scan it, it'll tell you what that object is.
Interesting.
I use that a lot. The iTunes. It's funny when you talked about the apps and the updates. When they were going over from iOS 5 to 6, I must have had 32 updates, up to maybe more. And I'm saying I have to update the phone. So I updated the phone before I updated the apps. I figured, let me give it I thought that would be the better way of doing it. And one of the sites that I'd like to visit is applevis.com. That's APPLEVIS, one word, .com. And there's podcasts, there's text. You could vote for your favorite app in the Hall of Fame. They also have a shame, whatever they call it, where apps are not accessible. And it's really interesting looking at the podcast. There's even a podcast for new voiceover users, and it's very, very, very simple and goes over what to do. And now we talked about this. Remember, I like to download the Apple Vis, and you could listen to them on your iPhone, but I find it more convenient to listen to it on a portable device like the NLS player or the Victor Reader. This way I could speed it up, slow it down, stop it, and have the iPhone to use at the same time. So we're getting closer to the end here. But so we got about 3 minutes. So Vinny, in 1 minute, give me what you think the iPhone is, where it's going in the next year or two. In 1 minute.
Where is it going?
In my pocket.
Yeah. I think, hopefully, especially with Siri, that it will work much easier and flexible just with the voice. The more that becomes user-friendly to the sighted world because of the numbers, that also will be convenient and safe for them while driving or walking and other things too. It'll become just that much more advantage for Apple to include them, that it'll be just to our benefit.
And it'll be good for us. But one thing that they did do is they put a new into Siri in iOS 6 where you can say open Pandora or open iTunes. Now, I was being a smart aleck, and let's see if you familiar with Alibaba and the 40 Thieves?
Yes.
Watch this. Open Sesame.
You said open sesame. Alibaba. Is that you?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, it was a little weak on the response, but
you didn't hear it.
Oh yeah, it was. If you could do it again louder, if not, I heard it.
Alibaba, is that you?
It said Alibaba, is that you?
And then it's like, okay.
Yeah, in other words, I said open sesame, which is what he used to say in front of the wall to open up the cave where all his treasure was.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so Vinny, I'd just like to thank you for stopping by and being a guest host, and good luck with Dusty's Law and all your traveling and all your technological stuff. And one of these days we're going to have to maybe devote a show to some technological things like with the iPhone, but we're gonna have to find a better way, because when I'm doing this now, it's so loud it makes me jump every time I turn it on. So we're gonna have to figure out a way of showing it. But I think it's gonna be well worth it. Okay, so Vinny, thank you so much, and I'll be talking to you later. All righty. Well, how many minutes we got left there? None. Well, thank you for watching on and listening to On the Bright Side with Janie and Jerry. I'm Jerry, and remember, always stay on the bright side.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
All words, ideas, and content expressed on The Bright Side are solely those of Jane Degenshine and Jerry Marino,
and not necessarily those of the National Federation of the Blind, the Northeast New Jersey Chapter, or WTOE Internet Radio Network.
If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, down with silly chumps, just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. Hey, always look on the bright side of life. Come on, guys, cheer up. Always look on the bright side of life.
Hi, this is Joe Ruffalo of WTOE Radio. If you are a resident in New Jersey and would like to join one of our chapters or have some more information about our chapters, please contact me at 973-743-0075 or email me at nfbnj@yahoo.com.
Are you stuck in front of your computer listening to our shows? Well, you may be happy to know that you don't have to be anymore. Hi, this is Keith Zalley, your announcer here at WTOE Radio. Of course, you know we broadcast live on throughoureyes.org, but did you know we simulcast on Facebook, Ustream.tv, as well as all of our show's host websites? And now you don't have to be stuck trying to catch your favorite show on your computer. You can listen or even watch our shows live right on your smartphone or iPad. During broadcast nights, just point your phone or iPad browser to our mobile site, m.throughoureyes.org, and click on the Listen or Watch Live link. WTOE also offers many smart apps for your iPhone, BlackBerry, Android, Windows Mobile, or Nokia phones, iPads too, all for free. Visit our main site, www.throughoureyes.org/appstores.html, and download your free app today.
My name is Ward Biondi. Have you ever wanted to take piano or keyboard lessons? Have you ever tried to find an instructor who would be willing to teach someone who is blind or visually impaired? If so, I may be the person you've been looking for. I teach piano and keyboard, and I specialize in working with blind and visually impaired people. I'm blind myself and have been playing piano for over 30 years. I offer reasonable rates and will come to your home. I'm also connected with the Music Association for the Visually Impaired Students of New Jersey, an organization which may be able to help pay for your music lessons. If you're interested, please contact me at area code 732-887-2612 or wbiondi@verizon.net.
Hi, I'm Keith Zalley, your announcer here at throughoureyes.org. Thanks for tuning in to WTOE Radio's live broadcast. Our recording session will start shortly. While you are waiting, I'd like to ask all our listeners who have not yet registered at Through Our Eyes to consider doing so. Registering helps us ascertain whom our listeners are, where they come from, if they are blind or visually impaired, as well as other important information which helps us guide us in providing programming that will meet our visitors' needs. I urge all our listeners to register today. It's free and only takes a minute to complete the process. Please read our privacy policy so you can be assured that the information you provide stays with us and only us, and you'll never get any unwanted emails. Well, we're almost ready to begin. Since what you are about to listen to is live, after each recording of the show, you'll hear approximately 15 minutes of music. This is the time we are contacting our next guest for the next show. When the show starts, you'll hear it in its entirety. Our recording sessions usually comprise 3 separate shows, each about 15 to 20 minutes in length, with approximately 15 minutes between each session. So once again, thanks for listening to WTOE Radio Live. Our recording session will start momentarily. I'm Keith Zalley. next hour, join Steve and his guests as they talk about topics geared to educate and inform his audience. Listen as Steve brings his unique experiences as an author, business leader, teacher, and law enforcement professional to the conversation. Together with outstanding guests, Steve asks the questions that make a difference in his listeners' lives. You're guaranteed to be better off after you listen to the KOVACS Perspective than before his show started. So, sit back, relax, and see what his show can do for you.
Welcome to the KOVACS Perspective, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad that you're with me. I'm Steve KOVACS, and today's program talks about stripping. Yeah, stripping. You know, not stripping your deck, not stripping your paint, stripping, throwing your clothes around kind of thing. And what's behind the curtain, so to speak. We'll talk to a guest who is a stripper, dominatrix for Tad for a little period also. We'll get into that a little bit. A nude model, and now is an instructor and an author. We'll find out about her life and her escapades a little bit also. And also, I want to get into a lot about why people may become strippers. I mean, we've heard bad things, we've heard good things. You know, a lot of guys say it's just a fantastic thing. Some women say it's a terrible thing. And some people in the middle say women that get into it have some issues. So I want to get into that. We want to delve into that. We want to find out if there's really insidious reasons people become strippers, or simply, ladies and gentlemen, is it like a business? Is it like waiting tables? Or is it a little bit of both? But I really want to get into that. We want to get into the titillating stuff because, you know, there's a reason men and many women are just interested in the topic. There's a lot of reasons, not only the titillation, but there's just a lot of reasons. The dynamics behind it, the mental aspects behind it. We're going to get into all of that. And men and women both are intrigued, interested. So we'll discuss a topic that interests so many folks, and we're going to find out all about the world. We're going to find out about the stripping world, that, in a way, sex world. And not only that, we're going to find out about what this particular author is up to now. So from the stripper world and where she was at and to where she's at now, we'll find out both. So stick around for a great show. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. We'll be right back with Steve and his guests right after these few messages.
Citizens of America, this is a message from feedthepig.org. Americans spent more money than they earned in 2005. This is the first negative savings rate in the U.S. since the Great Depression. America, we must start feeding the pig. On the 1st and the 15th, we must pay ourselves before we pay anyone or anything. We must make a budget. Even consider cutting up a credit card. Log on to feedthepig.org today. Find the benefits of saving for every stage of life. Brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Statistics say that 4 out of 10 high school students will drop out of high school. But sometimes the difference between dropping out and finishing is a boost.
I just try to motivate my friends as much as I can. Just get done with that credit. Just get that thing.
If you don't have anybody while you're in school, then there's not really a way to get through it.
I had a very good friend who was thinking about dropping out completely. And I just talked to him about it, told him that it was a stupid idea for him to do that. You know, he's gone so far and he's only got a year left.
There's one girl named Maria. She just told me to get my things straight. She told me if I ever needed anything that she'll be right there. Even my friends that have dropped out tell me, oh, it's staying in school. It's not easy to leave it. You think it's the best thing, but then when you've done it, you realize that it wasn't.
10 real-life at-risk students are filming their year, so you can see what it's really like trying to get through high school. Go to boostup.org to see their stories and give someone you know a boost so they can finish. High school is hard. Graduating is harder. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
It slices, it dices, it's Car Windshield. And now it can be yours. Next time you're in a car and the driver's driving recklessly, simply say nothing. Ignore that little voice in your head that's trying to warn you. And you too can experience Car Windshield. Car Windshield may not be for everyone, as it can lead to severe side effects and even death. Passengers who wish to avoid Car Windshield can do so by following simple steps, like speaking up and telling their friends to slow down.
There is no spokesperson to prevent reckless driving. There's only you. Speak up. This has been a message from the Ad Council.
And now back to the KOVACS Perspective.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Steve KOVACS. We're going to be talking about stripping and talking about a book that is out called Stripping Down, a Memoir. But before I introduce everyone to our guest, I want to talk to you, and I want to tell you what a friend of mine just yesterday said to me. She said that, how am I going to prepare? She goes, Steve, how are you going to prepare to interview a stripper? And, I said simply that what I'm going to do is work towards her talking to me about herself, her life, from her heart. That's all I'm going to do. It doesn't need to be a ton of preparation. My goal tonight with our guest is to have her tell me about her life as a stripper, her life involved with that stripping, and her life now. But not just tell me about it. I don't want to just be told facts. I want to hear it from her heart. Honest on my end, honest on her end. Listeners deserve nothing less. That's what it's all going to be about. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to our guest. Again, I mentioned a book a second or two ago. It's called Stripping Down, a memoir. You can get it on Amazon, and you can get it in a couple of other different places. We'll talk a little bit about it. But our guest is Sheila Hageman. How are you, Sheila?
I'm great. Thanks for having me tonight.
Well, I'm glad to have you. Did you hear my little spiel about how I prep for, how I prepped for you? Does it make sense to you? All I want to know is about you, your life, but from your heart.
I think that totally makes sense. I mean, that's how I would want to be interviewed. I mean, to me, that is what I always try to talk about, and that's how I always try to address people when I talk to them about this, because I think people do hear so much about stripping and they have preconceived notions. So I do try to really speak honestly so that I can help people to really understand what the experience was like.
And Sheila, thank you for saying that. I mean, you and I are on the same page. I love it. I mean, that's exactly what I want. I mean, it's titillating and it's exciting, and I guess it should be. And there's nothing wrong with titillation and excitement and all that kind of stuff. But I think there's so much more into this, and I've done some research also while prepping for you. But I kind of looked at your past and what your book talks about, and there's some real deep and interesting, important things that I want to cover. But you mentioned something just a second ago, Sheila, that caught me right away, and you said misconceptions. People conceive, they look at stripping incorrectly, or do they look at it, how do people look at it? What do you think?
Well, I think I've had a couple of different experiences, and I would admit that before I stripped, too, I had these preconceived notions of strippers. I think usually we either think of two different worlds. There's that glamorous world that we see in movies, or that we hear about, these high-end strip clubs where it's really glamorous. And then we also hear about the other world where there are drugs, it's filthy, prostitutes everywhere. So we hear about these two different worlds, and the truth of it is I have seen both sides. I have seen those exaggerations, but the truth of the matter lies really somewhere more in the middle.
In the middle. And it's funny you mentioned what you did, because when I think of stripping now, at my advanced age, I think of the classy places. Sheila, it's funny you say that, because I forgot there are those seedy places, though, that, I mean, it's in the worst neighborhood. There is prostitution. There's drugs all over the place, even at the bar and all that. I totally forgot about that. Now, Sheila, what kind of places did you work? Were you in the middle? Or did you work them all?
I worked them all. It's funny, when I first started, I was 18. I was living in Connecticut, and so I first started working at clubs that were around here, and so they were more on the darker side, I guess you could say. I know the first club I worked in, it was, tucked away, and it was called the Hideaway, actually, and it was hidden away in some, factories. It was a very industrial area. And it was really, it's a bar with a stage in it, and that's how most of them are. But, then when I eventually moved to New York City, I worked at some of the top clubs. And what I found, though, was that when I was first stripping and I was working in these clubs, which were less than desirable, I actually had some better experiences in those places. So it's also, sometimes it was paradoxical that, in the really rough clubs, you'd have a better experience and have the owners who you felt actually cared about you. You'd have more camaraderie between the dancers. And then once I got to the big time of stripping world, it was a lot more competition. It was a lot more of what you might expect to find, the kind of the stripper drama in the dressing room. So it was a little bit of both, and sometimes, yes, there were clubs that were really questionable, and, I would never go back again when certain things happened. But there were enough different places that there were places for everybody, I guess you could say. You can find a place where you felt most comfortable. But it was definitely trial and error.
Now, Sheila, what you just said in the beginning of when you started talking totally enlightened me, totally. Because when you painted a real good picture for me, in industrial place and kind of tucked away, and I'm sitting here, Sheila, going, oh, wow, that had to be really tough, man. And then you tell me that in instances that those clubs were actually better than the top of the line, up your nose up in the air kind of clubs. Totally surprised. I thought you were going to say the total opposite, that the women were cutthroats in the smaller, seedier places. The owners were pigs, from the minute you walked in. Total enlightenment. I think you enlightened me, and I consider myself a relatively worldly person. Total new to me. Hey, Sheila, I've got to ask you this, and I guess we're going to get into this as time goes on. And you know what I thought of also, Sheila, when you told me about that tucked away strip joint, and you know what I thought of an 18-year-old girl? You've got to be scared to death. Unless, were you high that first few times? And I don't even know if you've ever done drugs, so.
No, when the whole situation, I was 18, I was an actress, and I wanted to make the move to New York City. So I had seen this ad in our local newspaper over and over again in the very back, and it said, exotic dancers wanted, make $1,000 a week. So there was this part of me that said, I was working at JCPenney making minimum wage selling shoes, and there's this part of me that said, why don't I do something like this? I'm an actress and I can play the part of a stripper. So I had this kind of false sense of being better than it all, and that I was going to go into it, I was going to earn a lot of money, and I was going to get out really fast, and that it wouldn't touch me. So when I went into it, I had this fake bravery about it, but when I actually had to first walk into a club, it was one of the scariest moments of my life, especially because when I did it, I started in 1989. I had just graduated high school, and there were no, stripper memoirs. There was no internet. Right. I had no idea what to expect. And, in my mind, it was all made up. Nowadays, if a woman is thinking about doing something like this, there are movies she can watch. There's internet diaries. There's so many things that a woman can turn to. But back then, I really had no idea what I was walking into.
Well, that's very interesting. Now, you said that, and that's interesting that, or telling that an 18-year-old, you had goals, strong goals, and ways that you thought you could reach them. But you also had some other dynamics in your life, didn't you? Something to do with your dad, or something that you found some porn or something. Did that have something to do with hopping on stage for you?
I definitely think so. I was this very shy girl growing up. When my parents got divorced, I was 12. After my dad moved out, there was a trunk in our basement that was locked. And I really don't think I knew what was in there, but I knew it was something that had to be important enough for him to lock up, but it wasn't important enough that he took it with him. So I finally broke open the lock one day after school, and when I broke it open and looked inside, it was a chest full of porn magazines. And this was really my first time ever seeing women depicted like this. So it was initially this sense of awe, this sense of, what am I looking at? Is this the way that women are supposed to look? Is this what my father loves? I mean, I think all of this was going on in my head, and I became really obsessed with these pictures. I would look at them every day after school. I feel like I was trying to understand them and understand what it meant. And what I think happened, it was at that time then that I started wanting to be a model, and I started wanting to be an actress. I started wanting to be seen. So I started doing community theater. I started doing some local modeling. And as I progressed towards 18, I was introduced to this more grown-up world. Just doing community theater, you're introduced when you're a teenager. You're hanging out with older people. You're hearing things. You're learning things. And I started to learn that the way I could get the attention, the admiration that I really desired so deeply was by using my beauty, using my body, using this thing, this magical something that everybody said that they saw in me. So it became a way of, I think, really receiving the love that I felt I didn't have.
Well, you worded that extremely well. I mean, there's not a person on the face of this globe that could have said that better. You took us down a path, and you explained it very, very well, that you found as time went on. First of all, that it showed you something, apparently, at 12, that, boy, what is this? And, acceptance, Dad like this. And then you get attention from men as you get older. And then you get to see that, hey, this is something that can kind of get me attention, can get me respect, etc. Very well put, very well put. Hey, before we go any further, because I can see this conversation is going to go very quickly. We have so much to talk to, and you are talking from your heart. I love it. Where can people get your book, please?
Oh, sure. They can get it on Amazon. If they go to Amazon, that's the easiest place to get it. I think it's also on barnesandnoble.com. You can go. I also have a blog. If you go to strippingdown.com, and I have a link there to purchase the book.
Okay, excellent. Let's go a little bit further. Okay, so these are dynamics that kind of got you onto the stage, and you started in the smaller clubs. And how do you work up to the clubs, the so-called classy clubs? How do you do that?
Well, I think for me it was kind of easy. Because I was young. I also looked very young, so I was 18, but I looked 16. So I was also very conscientious. I think you had mentioned this before, and I hadn't had a chance to answer. At that time, maybe I did drink a little, but I wasn't doing drugs. I was very, very sober, and I would never, drink at work. So I was always punctual. Actually, I was always very early. I'd always arrive at a club like an hour before I was supposed to be on stage. So everybody loved me. The owners loved me. It was easy. Anytime I would audition to get into a new club, I would be hired immediately because I looked young. I looked like, it's funny like how we can't say something positive about ourselves in the present, but I can look back and say, wow, I was really pretty then. I really was. I was put together. So definitely, it was definitely easy for me to be hired because there were a lot of stereotypical strippers also who were older, who were on drugs, who were alcoholics, and that does, you do pay a price on your looks and on your dependability. So I definitely had a following, and I was definitely in demand.
Well, you're a professional. I understand what you say. I had a stripper that worked for me as an investigator for a few years, and she started at your age, at 18, and she just stopped a few months ago, as a matter of fact, and she was at least the last few years that I knew her, that she worked for me, and a very, very good investigator, by the way. But she was at one of the high-end places in this area. And she told me, this is what she said, Sheila, this is what she said to me. She says, she hates it. It's an act. It's a con. She says the people that like it are either young or high. So the big things that I got out of that, and again, she was at the end of her rope too, but she said the only ones, or the women that like it are either the younger ones or the high ones. Do you agree with that, or does that make sense, or what do you think of that?
I can definitely understand where she's coming from in giving that kind of answer. I can say definitely that overall my experience I would have to label as negative overall because overarchingly my life when I was doing this I was pretty miserable. But I can say, too, that there were moments when I loved my job. And I think that that's an aspect that sometimes gets lost when I write, because I do talk about a lot of the negativity. I talk about how difficult and damaging a career like this can be. And I think overall that it mostly is negative. But there were some women who really felt good about what they were doing. And when I was really centered and happy and just enjoying myself and dancing and performing and feeling the adoration and making money, it could be wonderful. I mean, there were definitely wonderful moments where I felt respected even when I was dancing, where I just felt people really admired me. And yes, I was half naked, and yes, they were giving me money and they were drinking, and there's so much negativeness about it. But then there were also moments when I would be on stage and I would lose myself into just this sense of being a beautiful woman and just enjoying myself on stage and just having fun. And I try to remember those moments, because I think it's really important to share that too, that it's not all bad, you know. And I think I went through a part of my life after I left stripping where I had to see it and label it as bad and wrong. And it's taken me a long time to really get to the point where I'm like, okay, yes, there was a lot of bad in my life. I was really messed up in a lot of ways, but there was good there too.
Well put again. You know, you're exceeding my exceptions about talking from the heart, because what we're talking about, Sheila, is not run-of-the-mill stuff. I think we're talking really nitty-gritty. We're getting into the reality of it, you know, the good and the bad. And let me ask you something about bad. I could not imagine doing and how many years did you strip for?
I stripped for 6 years.
I'm sorry, how many?
6.
Okay, 6 years.
Yeah, so I started when I was 18, and I left when I was 24.
Okay. How do you feel about men at that time? Sheila, I mean, these guys are coming in, and, I mean, you know, sex is absolutely normal, and but, I mean, do you start to go, I hate men? I mean, are they all pigs, or are they not all pigs? Tell me a little bit about that.
I definitely went through a lot, and it's something I would say I'll probably be dealing with for the rest of my life. I definitely went through phases where I still do, that where I judge these kind of men, and I judge men who only want to look at women in a certain way, and I'm probably always going to feel that way. But I also can look back and say, well, you know, it's not fair for me to judge them when I'm really working so hard at not judging myself and not judging other women for what we do. So I look back and I have to remember that there were men who were really good to me when I was doing this. There were men who befriended me, who saw in me that I could do a lot more than I was doing. In the first strip club I worked at, there was one customer, and this was, you know, it was one of these neighborhood bars, so it was, you know, plumbers and truck drivers and, you know, middle class, lower class, working class people. And I had this one customer who just would come down to the stage when he saw me dancing and say, you know, I can't watch you. It doesn't feel right. And he wanted to pay my way through college. I had other men who would come in and they would come give me some money and then say, I can't sit here. I have to go to the bar. I can't watch you dance. So again and again, I experienced these moments that were like, is this really happening? I had, yes, the negative men who would come in and who would be drunk and would say stupid things to me. And, but then I had this other side too. So I think I came out of it, yes, with lots of issues, but not as bad as it could have been.
Interesting. And you said these guys came up, and one guy offered to pay your college, like you know, like a 2-year or 4-year degree.
He wasn't totally, you know, we didn't work out the details because I was totally like, no, you know. But he said, this is ridiculous. You shouldn't be in here. What will it take to get you out of here? You need to be in college. I can help you. I can do what I can. You shouldn't be here. You know, I had other customers who just also would encourage me. They'd say, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. What are you doing here? And, you know, I was 18. To me, it was just kind of all a game. It was, you know, I wasn't mature enough to really be thinking about the future and thinking about how this was going to affect me in the long run. Because especially at that time too, you know, I thought I was only going to do it to make a bunch of cash, and then I was going to quit, and I was going to be a famous actress. So it didn't pan out that way, and it got harder and harder to leave as I became addicted to this lifestyle of earning cash, of it's a kind of lazy lifestyle, because you can call in sick, you can, and people don't expect anything better than you, so you start not to expect that much from yourself. All you need to do is show up and look pretty and get up on stage. That's not a lot to live into or up to.
Interesting. Did you just say? Did I hear that right? Because I had a little feedback when you were talking about that. That not much is expected of you, and when that's the case, you just don't rise to a higher level on your own. Is that pretty much what you said?
Yeah, I definitely think so. There was a certain level of self that you had to put out. I mean, it was enough for me to go there and look pretty. You know what I mean? So there was definitely a sense at that point in my life where I felt lost, and I was just trying to make cash. I was just trying to do something with my life. I mean, at that point, I really just wanted to be seen. I wanted to be loved. I wanted. And it was just all about what I could have in the moment immediately. It was not school. It was not any of those kind of things that I would have to actually work at, because that I might fail at. I knew I could succeed with what I was doing.
Interesting. This is a question I think that, or a quandary that many men think about, and I think women wonder about. When you were dancing, and it's all about sex, I mean, you're moving, and they're looking at you, and they're thinking, and they're fantasizing. Most of the men that are watching you are into it. They're into it sexually. They're just getting into it. Now, did you ever get into it? Did you enjoy it, or was it strictly just, I'm up here and I'm entertaining? There is no real sexual emotion for you, or was there?
It was definitely, I would have to say, yes, that there were definitely times when it was arousing, because here I am on stage and I have all these men like lusting after me, and I'm feeling beautiful, and it's definitely an energy, and music is playing, and it's intense. There's so much passion and intensity, and because I was an actress, I would really play this part, and I would play this character, and I would get into it. I would get into that sense of who I was, and I think that's also part of where my problems started to come in, because I had to create this character, and this character, my name was Kyrie, that was my stripper name, and when I would come off stage, she started to blend into who I was, Sheila. So I felt like I needed to split these two parts of myself off. And then there were times that I wasn't so good at splitting those two selves off. And it got me into trouble. It got me into, I had a boyfriend at the time who became my first husband, and I did cheat on him. So I was definitely acting out sexually. It was a definite sense of power and trying to get a hold of myself somehow and try to figure out what I wanted, and it was just all about desire and now. So yes, I think that probably answered your question.
Well, you answered my question much more than I even thought. And you ought to get a job for marketing, like a chain of dance clubs, because what you just said about that, how you got into it and the passion, how you explained it, you painted another picture, Sheila. You did a good job. So, there's a lot of guys tonight or tomorrow going to go to a club and go, hey, remember that Sheila? I mean, this woman in front of me is into it too. So that's really great. I was surprised that you were so from your heart, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Sheila, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, I know you were a dominatrix for a bit. I'm very curious about what a bit means and how you got into that and what it was all about, and I'm sure our listeners are interested at that too. So, Sheila, stick around. We're going to take a little bit of a longer break. Ladies and gentlemen, we will return with Sheila, and we're going to get into more titillating stuff, but now I want to also find out what she's up to now. So stick around. We'll be back after these words.
Hey everybody, this is Keith Zalley from the WTOE Radio Network, and right now we're going to take a few extra minute break just so we can save our files for our podcast. So please don't go anywhere because there's going to be more Steve and the KOVACS Perspective in just a few minutes.
Amber alert, abducted child, African-American girl, 6 years old. Suspect, Caucasian male, 30 to 35, 6 feet, 180 pounds, wearing blue shirt, black jeans.
Now when an Amber Alert is issued,
White van, out-of-state license, X-ray 687 Charlie.
you can get the same information the authorities get right on your cell phone. Sign up for free at wirelessamberalerts.org. When an Amber Alert is issued in the areas you've chosen, you'll receive a free text message. If you spot the vehicle, the suspect, or the child described in the alert, call 911. Sign up today at wirelessamberalerts.org. Think of it. Something as simple as a free text message could free an abducted child.
All units, Amber Alert canceled. Child recovered safely. Suspect is in custody. Repeat, Amber Alert canceled.
wirelessamberalerts.org. A child is calling for help. This message brought to you by the Wireless Foundation, the U.S. Department of Justice, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and the Ad Council.
Hello.
Is Joey home?
Joey, the door.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Hello, son. I'm Dean Rubin from college. I'm here to invite you to join us this fall.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Give me a day.
Well, we've reviewed your application.
Give me an E.
No, wait. Right, you didn't actually fill out an application.
I didn't think I had to.
You know what? That's fine. Because your algebra grade certainly... No? Wait, you didn't actually take...
Well, no one told me I was supposed to...
whatever. You really want to go to college, and we really want to have you.
Joey, out of bed.
Hey, wake up. You can't dream your way into college. There are actual steps you need to take. For all the steps, visit knowhowtogo.org. Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Mommy, you sure take the time and do a lot just to keep me safe. Knee pads, baby gates, corner cushions, socket covers, and that fancy car seat for big girls like me. Where'd you find that thing?
The odds of a child being in a fatal automobile accident, 1 in 23,000. The odds of a child being diagnosed with autism, 1 in 150. You know the odds of autism. Now learn some of the signs. No big smiles or other joyful expressions by 6 months. No back and forth sharing of sounds or facial expressions by 9 months. And no babbling by 12 months. To learn more of the signs and more about autism, visit autismspeaks.org.
So, Mom, while you're remembering to protect me from the unthinkable, don't dismiss the possible.
Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
If there was an emergency, would your family have enough water and non-perishable food to last 3 days? We asked families across the country. Here are some of their answers.
Well, we depend mostly on our meats, on our refrigerator, on, cooking that way, so most of our foods are in the refrigerator. Once the electricity goes out, your refrigerator goes out, so you can only use that for a certain amount of time.
We usually eat fresh food daily.
In the pantry, we have like granola bars and canned tomatoes.
True. That's true, but that's really not survival food. Tomato paste. That's really not survival food. Tomato paste.
And now back to the KOVACS Perspective.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Steve KOVACS. We are talking with Sheila Hageman, author of Stripping Down, a memoir. This is an outstanding interview. We're talking in reality. There's no punches are being pulled. We're talking about core subjects, core answers about stripping, the lifestyle, and what it's all about. It's an outstanding interview. Sheila, when we last, when I left you, I mentioned that you were a dominatrix. Is that true? And if so, could you fill me in a little bit about something I know very little about?
Sure. I knew very little about it, too, when I was roped into it, you could say. I was at one of the strip clubs that I would work at in New York City. It was called Runway 69. It's no longer there. And I knew I would work at a club for a while, and then I would get burned out, and I would say, I'm going to quit, I'm going to leave. So another stripper that I was working with, who I had become friends with, well, if you wanted to actually have me dominate them, I needed to get known. So the first step was getting me into some of these fetish magazines. So I did a few photo shoots for, oh goodness, what was it called? One of them was called Leg Tease. Really just low quality fetish, like foot fetish magazines. And she was a pretty big dominatrix in New York City. So I became her helper. And I think I actually worked with just 2 different clients. And it was very, very bizarre. It was a lifestyle that I really knew nothing about, and I mean, she was really into it. It was part of her lifestyle. And again, I was like, I'm just playing this part, and she told me what to do, and it was really, there was nothing sexual involved when we had this man come to her dungeon, and it was really, I think I like dripped candle wax on his nipples, but there was no kind of sexual anything going on. It was this very bizarre situation. Really? So I did not do that for long, but I did end up, doing a few of these like show performances kind of things with her, where I was like her dominatrix in training kind of thing. It was, I tried a lot of different things like that.
Okay, excellent, very honest. How about bachelor parties and private parties back at rooms kind of thing? Is that something that, excuse me, most strippers do, or is that not?
Again, there's like, it depends. Like for me, I never did the kind of thing where I never went to a bachelor party. I never went to a private party just because of the kind of stripper that I was. I like to call myself sometimes that I was like a prudish stripper. I was a prude in the way that I never prostituted myself. So there were situations, I would never put myself in a situation like that because I heard so many horror stories from the other dancers. Yes, it was an opportunity to make a lot of money, but I had so many women tell me that there were times where things went very bad. But there were situations in New York City where they have these things called like the champagne room. That was new to me because in Connecticut at the strip clubs we didn't have that. It was just strictly stage dancing. When I moved to New York City, there were things where you would have to go into these back rooms, and it was always a fight of trying to give the customer enough so that he was going to tip you, but having to like fight the whole time and like pretending like, oh no, there's somebody standing right there, you can't do that. It was a nightmare. Those were the aspects of the job that were really horrible.
I don't want to stick much longer with your past. I want to get into how you got to work, what you're doing now. But this is something that I just have to ask. When you're dancing up there, do you have a lot of men offer you money to go and to meet them in their car or have them pick you up later, or is that a rare occurrence?
No, I wouldn't call it a rare occurrence. You get offers all the time. I mean, definitely every day that you worked, you would get offers. Most of the time they would be these really like little like, said under their breath kind of thing. And, but I was just telling somebody the other day the story, this customer actually at a local club here near me, a customer came in and the other stripper came over to me. It was my first time in this club, and she told me, oh, this guy, he's a millionaire. He won the lotto and he'll give you lots of money. And he just kept giving me 20s and 20s. And then it was, I want you to come home with me. And he just kept pulling out money. And I was like, no, and he just kept pulling out more. And he was like looking at me, and the other stripper was looking at me like, are you crazy? Look at how much money that is. So yeah, the offers were there, but I had like drawn my line in the sand, and I knew I wasn't going to do it. So it didn't matter to me how much they offered me.
Interesting point. Now, another question in the same realm. In your opinion, and of course you're not a scientist studying this part of it, what percentage of ladies do you believe, your opinion, take money in the average strip club, I'm not talking about maybe one that maybe the majority might, but in all the clubs that you've worked, if you had to guesstimate a percentage of women accepting money, that under the breath kind of thing, where they take the client or the man watching you dance, take their offer, what percentage take money and get together later?
I would have to say that I was aware of. The number that just kind of pops into my head is 25%, but then I'm thinking that there were other women that it was more of there was a sense there that there was something going on, so there could have been up to like half of the women. I think it was very, very apparent very quickly for customers who you could purchase and who you could not.
Yeah. Well put. Who could be purchased? I like how you put that. All right, now let's get back. Let's get away from the past. Even though it was exciting and you painted a great picture and laid the foundation. Why and how did you get out stripping? I guess why is a bigger question.
There was a lot leading up to it. So by the time I quit, I had gotten married. I had split up with my husband. I left him because I was basically living this double life. I mean, he knew I was a stripper, but I was also cheating on him, and I couldn't live like that anymore, but I didn't feel like I could open up to him and tell him the truth. And I was also clearly suffering from depression, and I was pretty miserable. I moved out on my own. I did get an acting job that I would tour. It was a children's show actually, and I would tour for a couple months at a time. And so I would quit. I would come back, and I would need money again. I'd go back to stripping. So I was in one of this last club that I would work at. It was in Tribeca in New York City. It was also it was like more of a burlesque club. We were allowed to do performance art. Which was nice. We could do performance art as long as we ended up naked. And at this point, it was an all-nude club, too. So in Connecticut, I'd only gone topless. So now I was dancing naked. I wasn't making a lot of money because the burlesque club, it was fun and artsy and a cool place to be, but you just didn't make a lot of money. I had a new boyfriend. I moved into his apartment because this is such a long story. So I moved in with this boyfriend, and I was ready to quit, but I was so miserable I didn't know how to leave. And I got a phone call from my mother, who told me that she had breast cancer, that she had found a lump, and that they were going to do surgery. And it kind of rocked my world. It kind of like everything ground to a halt. I was like, all of a sudden, and maybe unconsciously it was an excuse. It was a reason to say I can't do this anymore. So I quit stripping, went to be with my mom when she had her surgery, came back to New York City, and I couldn't go back to it. And that was the point that I finally got my own apartment. I started working as a waitress, and I really said, I need to change my life. I don't want to be miserable every day of my life anymore.
And I want to, before I hop into the question that begged to be asked, it's hard to leave a lifestyle where you're making a lot of money, right? I mean, how do you go from dancing to waiting tables? I guess especially at your level, you were making good money.
Well, at that point, I wasn't. I'd been working at, one of the top clubs, Scores, and I wasn't making a lot of money because at that level of club, they were almost all the women were surgically enhanced. There were, porn models. There were these gorgeous, bigger than life women, and I was still kind of like little me. I was still little Sheila. I hadn't done any of those kind of enhancements. I didn't wear big makeup and big hair. So I was starting to get lost, and I didn't do good with like the private dances because I wasn't good at faking it one-on-one. When I was on stage, I was great because I was performing. But the way you made your money in New York City was by doing these one-on-one dances, and I couldn't fake it so well. So in all honesty, I could make almost the same amount of money waitressing as I could stripping at that point when I left, because I had become so miserable too. I think about it was that I wasn't even really trying that hard, so I was not making a lot of money. So it wasn't a big drop in salary.
Gotcha. All right. Very interesting, brother. So you're sitting there waitressing and you're going, I want more in my life. And I guess you got more in your life. What did you do then?
I decided I was going to go to college. I decided, I still was acting and I still wanted to do that, but I really started to get more realistic, I think. Also, in between when I was a waitress, before I started college, I fell in with another boyfriend who was abusive. That was something I never thought I would get into a relationship like that. And I faced a lot with him, and that was like a year of my life. When I finally was able to leave him for good, it was like the next month that I got the acceptance into college, and I said, okay, now this is it. Now things are really going to change. And I got a job as a secretary so that it was right by my college, so I could work during the day, and then I went to school at night. And my very first college class, it was a writing class, and the teacher came in and she told us how she had been a returning woman to college, how she had started when she was older, which made me feel good because at this point I was, 25, 26, and I was feeling really like too old to be in college. And she said she had made the decision that she was going to have a 4.0 GPA, that she was going to only have A's. And I remember sitting there and like looking at her and thinking, okay, wait a minute. This woman doesn't look like anything different than me, and if she could do it, why can't I? And I set in the very first class this intention that was going to be my goal. And so the next, how long did it take me? Next 5 years of my life, I worked as a secretary and got the 4.0 GPA and ended up graduating from my college as a valedictorian. So it was definitely a major switch, a huge 180 from the life I'd been living.
Okay. I got an email question here, and this may be a little bit personal if it is. It's nothing sex-related, but they want to know why you were depressed. You had mentioned depressed, I guess, a couple minutes ago. Was it the dancing? Was it, why were you depressed?
Well, actually, I think what I look back on now, I really think actually I've been diagnosed with clinical depression. So when I look back, I think I probably suffered with depression since I was a child. And
Gotcha.
Once I got into the lifestyle of the stripping and being surrounded by so much negativity but not getting help for it, I think at that point in my life the depression was very strong. But I didn't understand it. So, I would have, days where I couldn't get out of bed. I had days where I just sobbed uncontrollably. I had suicidal thoughts. It was very, very negative. But no one ever pointed out to me, Sheila, you might want to get some help for that. So it was actually it was when I started working as a secretary and I started college that a friend of mine was actually killed in a car accident, and I was like paralyzed with depression, and some little bell went off in my head that, I think I need to go talk to somebody. So I started seeing a therapist in my mid-20s, and to this day I still, I have breaks in it, but I believe very strongly in therapy, and it's something that I still do now, and I think it's something, hopefully one day the depression will lift and will no longer be there entirely, but, I have to accept the fact that it's probably a part of me and that it's something I'll be dealing with for the rest of my life.
So the dancing had a little part to do with it, but as you said, from childhood, you believe you had clinical, and it probably wasn't the healthiest lifestyle in the dancing. Am I correct on that?
Yes, I would definitely say that the lifestyle and the situations I was putting myself in, it was almost like I was making a bad situation even worse, because, I look back at who I was and how how vulnerable I was and the things that I was doing, it was definitely looks like it was a form of self-sabotage, that I was really making myself even worse through my choices.
I've got you. You know, I talked to a medical director of a hospital one day, and he told me about depression. He said, you know, psychiatric home. And he said, you know, we have such great medications for schizophrenia and et cetera, et cetera. And he said depression, severe depression is still a tough nut to crack. And I agree. You said if you have these issues, you should. Therapy is great. Modern medications are great. So I'm glad you brought that up, that if someone's dealing with that, there's no shame, and you should get help because there's help for everybody. You are a great guest. You're very communicative. I have not read much of your writing. I do want your book, and I'm going to contact you after the show. I collect autographed books from the people that I interview. I'd love to read yours, but I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, now, so you went to college. Did you get a degree?
Yes, I graduated with my bachelor's degree, and then after that, I really decided that I wanted to start writing again. I started writing. I also had discovered yoga when I was in college. So after I got my bachelor's, I became a certified yoga instructor, and then I went back to college and I got my master's degree in creative writing, and that's when I really did the major portion, really writing my book, and that was a 2-year degree. So
now, you know, I've never done yoga, but I have friends that do it, and I know doctors that do it, and they love it. They talk about it like, I mean, it's the best thing since you know, fattening pizza. Why is yoga? And I don't want to spend too much time on it, but why is yoga so cool?
Oh, wow, where to begin? Yoga is so cool, and I mean, especially for me, because it was, you know, when I was in college, I was really trying to put my stripping past behind me, the whole idea of having used my body. So yoga for me was this way back into my body. It was a way of making a new relationship with my body and accepting. It's really about, what's so great about it is you can start wherever you are. It's not competitive. It's about really connecting your body, your mind, your soul. It's just... It's got everything. It's a great package.
That's what I hear. And you know, I've been in physical exercise kind of stuff and martial arts kind of stuff, and all my life, literally since I've been 8 years old. And I've never heard anybody talk like this about yoga. I mean, they just love it. So anyway, maybe one day at my advanced age, I'll try a little yoga. What can this book do for, or can it do anything? Maybe it can't. Maybe it's just a story. But is there any way that it does anything for ladies that may read this and may be contemplating or debating on dancing? Is there something that women will get out of this or can get out of it?
I absolutely think so. I think from the women that I've talked to about my book, I think what it gives most is, and it has nothing to do with stripping, I think what it gives the most of is the sense that it's okay to share your story, that it's good to reflect about your life, and that there's nothing to hide from, and that the more that you're able to peel back and look at the layers of your life, it's through awareness and through self-reflection is how we can grow and move forward. And I think the fact that I'm not ashamed, that I'm willing to talk about it in an honest way helps other women. And this is my great goal, is to help other women to feel comfortable expressing and talking about their own lives. And that really, no matter what our past are, that there's not anything that we can't do, regardless of who we were or what we did. You can do anything that you set your mind to. And I really, really believe that. And I really think that my life shows that very clearly, that anything is possible.
You know, that dancer that I told you about that just left dancing after a lot of years, for a couple of years she's really wanted to get out, and she just did. And she's teaching, and it's interesting that there is a life after stripping, but is there, do you find, or in your experience and your research maybe a little bit, or just your experience too, or combination, that some women that have been in the lifestyle just fall apart after them. By fall apart, I mean they live in a trailer home, and there's nothing wrong with a trailer home, but I mean if that's not where you want to be, and they're drinking beer, and they just hate them, not hate themselves, they just don't go anywhere, or do the majority do something with their lives? Do they not, or do they do something?
You know, it's one of the great questions, and, you know, unfortunately, most strippers do not become really good friends with other strippers. I would say that even when I was in it, you could tell the women who were going to be okay, and you could tell the women who were never going to leave that lifestyle. You know, it's just something you can just sense, and hopefully I'm wrong about a lot of the women that I felt lots of fear for, who you could just tell were as miserable as I was, but they weren't expressing it all, and I don't think they were aware of it. I mean, I was aware that I was miserable. I think there were women who were miserable and weren't quite sure about it. So I definitely think there are a lot of women who don't get out, even when they get out. I think it takes a lot of work. To be honest, I can't imagine that any woman strips for any amount of time and doesn't need help unpacking the experience afterwards. It's just too complicated an experience.
Wow, very interesting that you can't see anybody that's done it for a while without somehow, however that works, right, Sheila? I mean, whether it's therapy, whether it's self-reflection, whether it's whatever gets you to get rid of the baggage kind of thing. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah,
No.
I think that's it. I think you don't go through an experience like this where you are putting yourself on the line every day, where you are facing demons, where you are pretending to be something that you can't be every moment that you're on stage. You can't feel sexy and happy every moment that you're on stage and some drunk guy is calling you names. It's not possible to not be affected by that. I mean, maybe, but I don't know how a rational thinking human being could not be affected by negative experiences like that.
Okay. Now, is this your chosen career now, Sheila, writing?
I'd say I consider myself a writer. I'm also a teacher. I teach college writing. I also am a mom. I have 3 kids who are 8, 4, and 2, so I definitely have my hands full, and I teach yoga. I think my great goal is, yes, I have like 3 other writing projects I'm doing, but I also like speaking, and I really hope that in the future that I'll do more speaking and really get involved more working with women, because I feel like I really want that connection, and I really want to work with women and maybe do more like writing groups with women, just to really start, you know. And I love memoir. I love this idea of telling our stories, and I want everybody to have that chance to really express themselves.
You know, if you, and I write also, I write a weekly column, and I wrote a book, and I think writing is a form of communication, and if you communicate in the written world as you do in as you speak, you're a good writer. How would what do you think makes a good writer? I mean, I'm not going to ask you what you think makes a good dancer, because I think we could probably all kind of figure that out. And this isn't a strip lesson interview today, but it's a person interview more so, I guess. And what makes a good writer? What, you know, if somebody wants to be a writer out there and they're listening to you and they hear your story and what you've gone through, and they're going, hey, God, she's writing now. She's dancing and now she's writing, and probably writes good. What do you write? And you teach it. So how do you become a good writer?
I think the key, if you want to be a good writer, is to write, obviously. I think a lot of times we say we're writers and we're not really doing that much writing. So putting your thoughts on the page and being honest, and I think that's the most important thing, is finding a way for yourself to be honest on the page and tell your truth. And it doesn't necessarily mean writing memoir and writing your actual personal story, but it means finding a way to talk truth on the page, because that's what people want to read. That's what people want to hear. People want to know the truth. Even if it's fiction, you've got to find a way to connect to whatever is most important to you and find a way to express that truthfully to other people.
Well, it's funny you say that, because if you remember what I said in the beginning, and I never read this from you, or I never read anything about how you feel about truth, and that's how I am too, and how I write. And people seem to really love that. You know, we have so much agenda-driven things, don't we, Sheila? Whether it's news, I mean, they're pointing us in certain ways, whether it's liberal, whether it's conservative sometimes. And I look at it, and apparently you do too, is it's the truth. Sheila, I don't want you to tell me what you think I might want to hear. I want to hear Sheila's true story, because when I hear that, it enlightens the heck out of me, and it enlightens the heck out of other people. You know what I'm saying?
I totally know what you mean. It's when people are connected to whatever their truth is, because we all have a different truth. But when somebody is connected to that and finding a way to communicate that, I think that's when we really get lit up by something, because there isn't enough of that in the world. And, you know, with all the reality TV, which isn't real, to really just feel like you can connect with a person in this world today is amazing. And that's how that sense of passion, and I think it's the same sense of passion that made me a successful stripper, that made me a successful dancer, when I would connect to that center, that self that felt good about myself and just trusted and loved myself. It's the same idea with writing. If I can connect to that and express to people in that way, as I did with my body, as I did with my sexuality, if I can do that with my language, it's the same idea.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, may I recommend what Sheila just said. This will be a podcast in a day or two. It's going to be out on YouTube. It'll be all over the net. It'll be on the KOVACS PERSPECTIVE.10. What you just said, Sheila, was very, in my opinion, about success. What you just said, how you became successful at dancing, and how you can become successful at other things like writing. I'm not going to repeat what you said, but you had a longer quotable quote that I think is a key to success, what you just said there. Now, Sheila, we only got a minute left. I want to talk about your book just a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, you can go on www.strippingdown.com. That is Sheila's blog. You can go on Amazon.com. And her book's title is Stripping Down a Memoir. It's Sheila Hageman. Very interesting interview, very enjoyable interview, very enlightening interview. If you're at all into this topic and you want to find out more about it, pick up her book. And Sheila, let me say it was a ball. It was really nice being with you. I'm going to connect with you because I want an autographed book, so you'll get an email from me. But thank you very much, Sheila.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Steve.
Okay, bye-bye, Sheila. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on the second and fourth Wednesday of every month, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there, be square. We love having you here. Any comments, questions, or concerns, info at the KOVACSPERSPECTIVE.com. I'll personally answer you. Hey, nice to have you with you. Until next time, so long.
KOVACS Perspective is brought to you by the WTOE Radio Network at throughoureyes.org. All WTOE shows are available as a podcast. Visit our podcast page to learn more. The KOVACS Perspective was written by Steve KOVACS, directed by Tom Bendenwald Jr., technical director and audio engineer Len Azzarone, assistant audio engineer Lori Vescuso. For more information about the KOVACS Perspective, visit www.allsourcesecurity.com. All words, ideas, and comments expressed on the KOVACS Perspective are those of Steve KOVACS and not necessarily those of the National Federation of the Blind, the NFB Northeast New Jersey Chapter, or the WTOE Radio Network. Until next time, I'm Keith Zally.
Done it again.
And that's all, folks.